And welcome to the sixth and final part of the Myofascial release series. And this particular sequence today, we're going to be looking at releasing the arms, specifically the triceps on the back, a little bit of work through the biceps. We'll also be doing some work on the forearms, the hands, and to finish a nice relaxing sequence to release tension in the face. Particularly for the work on the face, this work I do quite regularly with private clients of mine, particularly for those who are experiencing a lot of stress or tension headaches. It can be very calming and the kind of practice that you could do before bed. So I really recommend exploring that, even if the face is not an area that you identify with needing release. So for this practice today, you'll need 2 myofascial balls. You could have them in a tote bag. I'll give you an option to use them without. I've also got a couple of yoga blocks. These are optional. You could use a low stool or a chair or something like that. And you will also need a bit of space at the wall for a couple of the techniques. So we're going to start this practice at the wall, and we're actually going to review a couple of techniques that we looked at in the shoulder sequence. We were kind of rolling around the upper arm and in sort of the deltoid area, and we're going to sort of do the same sequence essentially, or the same technique, but we're going to be working our way down more of the whole length of the upper arm. Just for difference today, I'm going to show you how to do this just with 1 ball, but you certainly could do this technique with 2 myofascial balls in a tote bag. And if this is a very sore and tender area, I would actually recommend working with the toted balls. 1 ball is a little bit more intense. So you're going to come to the wall. I'm just going to adjust the camera a little bit. And for this one, certainly you may want to use a yoga block for a couple of the techniques. So we're going to start by rolling and releasing the tricep here, right at the back of the upper arm. So I'm going to take my myofascial ball to the wall here. I'm going to turn my body in a little bit more into the center of the room. You can walk the feet away from the wall to put a bit more pressure there. And then I'm just going to use my legs to start to roll up and down the back of my arm here. And you want to try to cover really the full length of the arm. So every now and then, every few strokes, you can just move the ball a little bit up or down. I'm just trying to cover as much sort of surface area here through the back of that arm. And I'm working into the triceps. Just doing this sort of stripping motion really here, following the length of the muscle fibers. There's often some pretty kind of tender and juicy stuff right above the elbow. Into that. Now you could also just find a spot. So if there is a particular spot that you're feeling is tender, you could pause on that spot, pin into it, and then just start to spiral the arm. I'm creating a pin, spin, and mobilize sort of type technique. And I know there was another point right up in the belly of the tricep. Great. Let's do the second side. So again, I'm just working on the back of the upper arm here. Just adjust this a little bit. So again, to get kind of the back of the upper arm, I'm starting up a little bit higher and leaning in there, and then using the legs to slide the ball up and down the upper arm. Again, very few strokes, just working your way down. Nice firm pressure. Get to breathe. And again, triceps in my experience are often more tender than people realize. So this might be a bit of a surprise if you're working through the back of the upper arm. And I like these ones at the wall, as I mentioned in the shoulder series, primarily because you can control the pressure and you have a little bit more movement to sort of slide the ball around, but I will show you a version of this on the floor in a moment. Again, if you find a particular spot, you could just play with doing some spirals of the arm. Great. Okay, and then let's go back to now the bicep, and we're going to just work our way a little bit down the front of the arm. This one is a little more awkward. It works quite well through a doorway, so you've got kind of space for your chest and your head to come through. Or you can use a block here, which will give you, again, just a little bit of space. So I'm going to turn to face the wall, and I'm putting the ball right up into the front of the upper arm there. So you can see my palm is facing the wall. I'm exposing the front of the arm, and then again, I'm using my legs here to roll up and down the front of the arm. And again, in my experience, this can be quite tender. You don't need to, follow or kind of cover a whole big area all in one go. So my recommendation is to, just sort of work incrementally down the length of the front of the arm. I'm also going to spend a little bit more time just slightly higher up. There's the sort of the tendon of the bicep kind of right sort of here on the front of the upper arm where it meets into the shoulder. This is oftentimes an area that can get quite tender for people if they do a lot of work with their shoulders. So go easy, but again, it could be potentially helpful to just create some hydration and blood flow through this area. And again, if you find a particular spot, you can play with spiraling the hand and the arm. And then I'm going to switch. Again, taking my upper arm to the wall. Again, you may find this works better for you with the toted balls. I quite like the sort of pinpointed, sort of localized pressure of the one ball. It is probably one of the more awkward techniques to sort of get a hang of, so just take your time. The more you do these techniques, the easier they become. Just trying to cover, oh, that's a good bit, as much of the bicep area as I can here. Again, just following the length of the tissues. And if you find a spot, lean in, maybe play a little bit. The wrist flexing and extending. Okay, and then releasing from there, we're going to do just one more technique, and for this one we're going to work on the forearm. And what I'm really going for here is the sort of the hairy side of the forearm. So really these muscles that come from the elbow and go down and towards the wrist. And I'm really just working on, for most people, the sort of the good stuff will be in that sort of first half of the upper arm, that sort of meaty part of the forearm. So for this one, again, against a wall, I'm going to tuck my elbow in and bring the ball in. I've literally just got the ball right below the elbow, so I'm not on the bone, but in that meaty part of the forearm, palm facing up. And I'm going to lean in and sort of wedge the ball into position. And then I'm just going to start to slide the ball along the length of the forearm. So I'm sort of doing this action. Apologies for the sniffles, we're in cold season. Okay, and then find a spot. Again, you could just lean in there. Sometimes it feels good to flex and extend the wrist, or even pronate and supinate the palm, turning it down, turning it up. And again, in my experience, for many people, this is pretty tender and rich area to explore. If you do a lot of weightlifting where you're kind of gripping the weights, or a lot of driving where you're obviously holding a steering wheel, and even really just, you know, the probably the reality that many of you are working on screens and with keyboards, these muscles in the forearm get often really worked and they need some release. Okay, let's go to the other side. So again, same thing, I'm going to be popping it right into the upper part of the forearm. I'm leaning in there, tucking in with enough pressure against the wall so that I can start to slide and glide the ball up and down. Again, you can decide how much pressure feels good to you. You don't want to overdo it. You can pause. If you find a trigger point here or a sensitive sore spot, sometimes you can feel that actually just refer into the hand or even up into the shoulder. You could be still. You could, again, flex and extend the wrist or turn the palm up or down. A couple more strokes. So you'll notice I'm not really spending ages on any one thing here, about 1 to 2 minutes on each technique. And you could definitely stay longer, but the research does suggest that sort of 30 to sort of seconds to 2 minutes is a kind of a really good basis for duration of time on each technique. But certainly if you're finding there are particular areas that are needing more attention, you could stay longer. Okay, and then gently release, shake it out. Okay, so I'm going to come down onto the floor for this next one, and we're going to go back into the triceps. Now for the triceps, this one you might want to have something to go underneath your head. A yoga block, a book, a cushion is fine. And you're going to come on down and put your head on the support. Now I'm going to take my right arm up towards the ceiling, and I'm going to be working again on this sort of back of the upper arm on the tricep. I'm going to put the ball right up into that sort of top part of the upper arm, and then I'm going to bring my elbow out to the side. So now the ball is sort of lodged into position there against the floor. For less pressure, keep your chest facing the ceiling. If you need more, you can roll onto more of your side, and that will start to put more pressure on the ball. And then an option to go ahead, start to bend and straighten the arm. This is again more of a sort of pin and stretch technique. You could also draw circles with the forearm. And you can experiment with turning the palm away or turning the palm up. And then also quite nice to do these little windshield wiper movements. So I'm now cross fibering the triceps. The ball's going to roll a little bit up and down there. Okay, and then I'm going to come down about halfway down the upper arm. Same thing. So I'm in the middle of the upper arm. Bending and straightening. And if you want more pressure, you can come more into a side lying position. Spiraling the palm up and down. Turning the palm up. And then taking some, again, easy windshield wipers there. That definitely is more spicy. Great. And then we'll come down one more time, just above the elbow now. So just above the elbow, still on the tricep. Same thing. So this practice could be really helpful if you've got some issues perhaps around the elbow joint itself, maybe something like golfer's elbow or tennis elbow might be relieved a little bit with some myofascial work around the elbow, both above and below the elbow. I don't recommend doing myofascial release on a really acute injury. If you're in a lot of pain, it's probably best to avoid, but there's something that's maybe more chronic or more kind of just low grade, you may find this just helps to relieve a lot of tension around the area. Great. All right, and let's do the same thing on the second side. So coming to lie down with a bit of support underneath the head. And again, we'll start in the higher point. So I'm going to take the ball right up into the upper arm and then bend the elbow out to the side so it's lodged into position. And then you can lean onto that side. And from here, go ahead and bend and straighten the arm. Circles. Arm up or down. Or maybe finding some of those cactus arms. Okay, and then let's move the ball down about halfway down the upper arm. Same idea here. And then if you need a little bit more here, I'm feeling I could take a bit more pressure. I can roll more to the side, lying position. Just monitoring my breath. And this can be quite sore. These practices would be great to do in conjunction with the shoulder release sequence we did as well. Of course, nothing in the human body works in isolation. But my hope is with this series, as you work your way through it, you're identifying maybe areas of your body that maybe need, as I say, a little more attention, a little more daily care or maintenance. And then let's go down one more level to just above the elbow. And same thing here, exploring some movement. So you're hopefully building up a little bit of a picture or map of your body as you go through these practices, really embodying your own unique anatomy and learning about your anatomy so that you can sort of catch the niggles and the aches, early on before they become maybe full-blown issues. So I do see this work very much as preventative as well as sort of useful perhaps for injury rehab. But it's always better if we can kind of catch issues before they become full-blown injuries, of course. Great. Okay. So we're going to move our way down now into the hands. And this is, again, one of those areas that's often so neglected, but so important because, of course, we use our hands a lot. And we very rarely probably spend much time taking care of them. So for this, you could certainly do this on a table, standing. You could do this work on a low stool. I'm going to use a couple of yoga blocks here stacked, one on top of the other. And I'm going to take the ball onto the block and then my right hand on the top, and I'm going right into just the center of the palm to begin. And then almost, if you've ever done CPR, the similar sort of setup here, I'm gonna bring my hand down and then my other hand over on top. And a little bit like sort of squeezing out an orange to make orange juice. I'm just gonna start to slide the ball, and I'm kind of creating this sort of twisting, sort of torquing kind of type action right in the center of the palm. And then I'm just going to back off a little bit of the pressure here. Whoops. And just watch that the balls don't suddenly slip away. You're going to slide the ball around in a circular way. We're having a little bit more surface area may be helpful. Looking for any tender areas, and particularly in this sort of area right where the thumb and the index finger connect. I'm just going to spend a little bit more time in there. I'm just going to put a bit of pressure in and just, I'm sort of just smearing the ball around on that area. Great. And then let's do the same thing on the other side. So again, my hand right into the ball right into the center of the palm. My other hand comes over on top. My elbows are straight. I'm going to just lean in. And then again, like you're squeezing out an orange there. Smearing the ball right into the center of the palm. And then again, kind of go easy here, but just find a little bit of a circling movement around. Directions. Based on what you find, maybe, again, you want to spend a little bit more time compressing into one area and just working into that. So I'm going right up kind of in this sort of thumb and index finger area. And then I'm going to bring my right hand onto the block here, which turn this way so my fingers can be straight. And I'm just going to use the ball gently here, and I'm going to just slide the ball, which will come a bit closer to the camera so you can see. I'm going to slide the ball kind of up in between the bones. So I'm just sort of pinning the ball in and then sort of dragging it up. And you could do this actually just like this if it doesn't feel good to sort of bear weight through your hand, or you could ground your hand and then use the ball to slide up. I'm just almost like I'm trying to drag the skin from between the fingers up towards the wrist. Just sliding it up. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side. Again, pushing in just lightly and then dragging the skin up and back towards the wrist. Go gently with this. You can obviously see on your hand probably there are, blood vessels quite close to the surface of the skin, so we don't want to bruise anything here. Great. And then we're going to just do one more technique here, which is what we call the finger splits. So the ball on the stool or the block here, and I'm going to put my thumb and my index finger apart, and then the ball is going kind of right up through that joint. I'm just bringing my other hand to the wrist just to stabilize, just holding that position, pressing in again, not too intense, but just enough to feel a bit of a stretch. And then I'm going to go between my second and third finger, just straight down again. Don't overstretch anything, but just need some space. And then between the middle and the index, and then between the index and the little. Okay, and then let's do the same thing on the other side. So between the thumb and the index finger. It's applying a little downward pressure into that joint. We never really think about stretching out our hands and our fingers. This might feel kind of unusual between the index finger and the middle finger. Between the middle and the ring. And then between the ring and the middle. Great. And then release and relax and shake out the hands a little bit if you need. So to finish, we're going to come to sit, and by all means, feel free to do this face sequence in a chair if it's more comfortable for you. I'm going to come in nice and close. I'm sitting on a couple of yoga blocks here. Really, you could also definitely do this lying on your back, which might feel really nice as part of a more kind of wind down sequence. So we're going to take the two myofascial balls here, and I'm going to start by just doing a little release for the forehead. So I've got the two myofascial balls. I'm just going to place them on the forehead, just above the eyebrows. I'm gently pushing in, and then I'm sort of dragging again the skin and painting circles. Once you got the hang of it, I recommend doing this with the eyes closed. It's a lovely one for those of you who maybe experience tension headaches. And then change the direction of the circles. So again, I'm not sort of moving the balls over the skin, but rather pushing the balls gently in and then dragging the skin around on the skull beneath it. And now push it with the balls and just gently drag the skin up and just hold that for a few seconds. So you'll feel like your eyebrows are being lifted. And then push into the balls and drag the skin of your forehead down towards your chin. You feel like your eyebrows are being dropped. And then release. And now we'll slide the balls out to the temples. And again, press in lightly and just start to paint gentle circles here. Common area for stress. We often instinctively massage this area when we're feeling stressed or overwhelmed. Circle in both directions. And again, push into the skin and then drag the skin back towards the hairline. And then push into the skin gently and drag the skin forwards towards the nose. Good. And then release. Now I'm going to take the balls right into just in front of the hinge of the jaw. So in this sort of soft tissue, just in front of the jaw. So on the sort of upper cheeks, press in. And again, create little circles here with the balls. Common area again for one to hold stress or tension. And push in and slightly back. And maybe if you like here, open and close the mouth. And you could also waggle the lower jaw from side to side. Maybe a few more of those circles. Digging in a little deeper. And you could even start to come back a little bit actually onto the joint itself. You feel it's a little more bony in there. And again, dig in, maybe push back. Do a little wiggle of your jaw, open and close your mouth. Relax. And for these last couple of techniques, we'll do this without the balls. And you're going to give your head and scalp a little massage. And I'm using my fingers here fairly firmly, and I'm just trying to drag the skin of the scalp around on my head here. Such a nice one again to stimulate blood flow in this area. Can be really helpful for hair health, but also just again has a sort of systemically relaxing impact for most people. I'm using my thumbs just underneath the ridge of the skull in that occipital area that we rolled in the upper back and neck video. Feels really good. Zhuzh up your hair, give you a bit more volume. And then I'm going to take my thumb and index finger to the little soft rim of cartilage around the ear and just gently massage and knead and stroke and pull out a little bit. This is again another calming technique, and you can gently tug and massage the lobes of the ears. Some signs that your nervous system is beginning to relax would be maybe you might start to notice a bit more saliva in your mouth, or maybe your eyes are getting a little watery, the tone of your voice might lower down. You might notice some gurgling in your stomach as your digestive system kicks in. And then I'm going to take my thumbs now and just lightly press in with my thumbs underneath the rim of the jaw. And I'm just sort of pushing in and up a little bit. And this again can often be quite tender. Pushing in and back. Find a good spot you can linger. And to finish, just bringing your palms together. Rub your hands. Create a little bit of warmth and heat. And then once your palms feel nice and warm, just let your head bow into your hands and just let the warmth of your hands just soak in gently around the sockets of your eyes. The eyes are closed. Just letting the warmth sink in. Take a couple more, just slow, deep breath into your belly. Ready, you can release the hands and open the eyes. And hopefully that last practice felt good and has calmed you. And that one can just be done on its own in its entirety as just a short 5-minute relaxation practice. As I said, lovely to do at the end of the day or if you've been feeling particularly stressed. I hope that was helpful. Please feel free to leave any feedback down in the comments, and I look forward to hearing from you. Take care.